Hello, tell us the truth. Did you used to watch Harry Potter in his magic robe when you were a kid too, and get terribly jealous? Well, this girl would tell you that being invisible isn't really as cool as it might seem at first glance. How she got the powers and what happened next, we'll tell you. Holly was the middle child in the family. Her older sister, Vanessa, was in charge of beauty, and her younger brother, Troy, was in charge of intelligence. Holly didn't seem to have enough of either. So the only person who was genuinely interested in her hobbies and thoughts was her mother. But she had suddenly fallen ill when Holly was just 12 and died unexpectedly. That's when her family stopped paying attention to the girl. At the table, her father didn't ask about her affairs, and her brother and sister ignored her, and that soon spread to the rest of her life. Even at school, Holly was ignored, and one morning she just disappeared. Many years have passed, and Holly's learned to lead a fairly normal life with her little peculiarity. Now she lives alone in a rented apartment and goes to work at night. Most of the time it's in nightclubs, where the girls peek into other people's lives and leak photos of them to local journalists for big money. Her brother Troy still lives in his father's house, in the basement to be specific, where he has set up a film studio and shoots weird experimental movies with the legs of women who pass by. Vanessa got married and is still obsessed with her own looks. On Fridays, the family still gathers for dinner, and Holly also attends them, although no one knows about it. One day, Holly's on her way to the club for her shift as usual. She watches famous people and follows them into the private area. But suddenly, something unexpected happens.
Hey, why are you following those people?
The bouncer throws Holly out of the club and doesn't answer her strange questions. The girl is so shocked that she thinks she's become normal. Then another security guard comes out into the street. She tries to talk to him and it becomes clear that he doesn't see her like the others. A few days later, Holly sees a newspaper with the photo that she took herself. She realizes that the man in the picture is the bouncer from the club. It turns out that the guy's name is Shane Blackwell, and he's a former world mixed martial arts champion. Holly discovers that a few years ago the guy started dating famous actress Juliana King, and for a while the pair were at the height of fame. Then Shane was caught cheating, and soon after lost a fight to his famous rival Attila Mate. Fans turned their back on him, and his career quickly went downhill. Holly decides to go to the club again and catches up with Shane at the service exit. She asks if he remembers her and gives him the ill-fated newspaper.
Think I've seen this picture 100 times?
I took it.
Upon learning that the stranger had something to do with ruining his career, Shane is even angrier and asks Holly to leave him alone. Then, she says that she can whitewash his reputation, rebuild his career, and maybe even mend his relationship with Juliana. Shane won't listen to this nonsense, especially since he's in a hurry to meet his agent. Holly insists he take her with him and promises to show her abilities. At the meeting in the bar, the girl immediately sits in the stool next to the agent and keeps peeking into his phone. The agent doesn't pay any attention to her, so Holly quickly discovers and comments aloud that his partner is cheating Shane out of money, giving him far less for the matches than he should receive. Not understanding what's going on, Shane runs out of the bar and asks for an explanation. The girl says that he's the first person in her life who can see her. Shane doesn't believe a word she says, so she decides to use more extreme methods of persuasion.
Could have got yourself killed.
The guy realizes that the driver didn't see the girl like she said he would. He softens and says he's willing to talk to her the next morning at his house. They meet and Holly presents him with her theory. In her opinion, they share the same spell, and only the two of them can help each other to break it. She soon finds confirmation of her theory. It turns out that at the age of 13, Shane was kicked out of the house by his mother's boyfriend, and he has felt abandoned since he was a child. Holly felt the same way when her mother died. Eventually, Shane accepts the girl's help and invites her to an underground fight where he performs. Holly isn't thrilled with the venue and is surprised by the winner's tiny fee of only $300. The girl says that Shane deserves much more and promises to find him better opponents in bigger competitions. For a few days, Holly studies the portfolios of the toughest fighters and decides to start with the notorious thug Suarez. She sneaks into his house, takes pics of the steroids in the kitchen, and sends him a picture of the pills. Sitting a few meters away from her victim, the girl writes that she will pass the photos to journalists if he doesn't comply with her conditions. From Suarez's house, she goes to Shane, who just received a call from his agent. The agent tells Shane that he's arranged him a fight with the famous Suarez, and Shane quickly realizes who's behind it.
How did you pull that off?
You let me worry about setting up the fights. You worry about the training.
Preparations begin for an important fight in which Suarez is the clear favorite, but Shane trains harder than ever. and in the process gets closer and closer to Holly. He invites her to the fight. She, in turn, says it's dangerous for her to be in the crowd and refuses. Then he offers to watch the match at his house and wait for him. Holly agrees, and before that stops by Vanessa's house to borrow a blouse and lipstick from her unsuspecting sister. This is a hard fight. At the beginning, Shane almost gives up, but he still withstands the onslaught of his opponent for 3 rounds. And then suddenly takes Suarez in a painful choke and forces him to surrender. Immediately after the fight, Shane heads home, bumping into an annoying reporter on the way, and calls Holly to spend some time on the roof. They eat pecan ice cream, look at the moon, and chat. Shane shares his worries about going crazy with the girl, and asks if she's actually real. Holly's almost offended, and then the guy kisses her. It's at that very moment that the journalist's camera peeks out of the staircase and manages to take a picture. But there's nothing to worry about. Holly won't be visible in the picture anyway. Not so fast. Shane gives a press conference with his next opponent, the smug Tommy Bones. Bones says that Shane is unprepared and will probably give up in the first round. Blackwell, on the other hand, isn't asked by reporters about the match at all. Instead, they question him about the mysterious girl in the picture. Some think it's Juliana King, suggesting they're back together. Shane refuses the comment on the question. After the interview, Holly sneaks into Tommy's limo and sends him a message. Attached is a picture of him, his fangirl, and her underwear. Holly writes that the girl in the picture is 16 and encloses her ID. She offers Tommy a deal. Finally, the hour of the big fight arrives. Shane fights against Tommy, who's won 10 fights in a row, but that doesn't stop him from crushing the smug athlete. After the resounding victory, Holly offers her journalist boss an exclusive video of Shane's workout, but he refuses. No one is interested in successful guys. Therefore, she gives him supposedly insider information about Shane's upcoming rematch with Attila Mate. The news quickly reaches Mate, and at first he doesn't like the idea at all. His agent, though, convinces Attila that a second victory would only cement his status as champion, and the athlete agrees. Holly spends the day in Mate's apartment trying to find dirt, but to no avail. The next morning, the girl goes to her sister's house to return the sweater and sees her crying in the bathroom with a pregnancy test in her hands. She doesn't understand why Vanessa isn't happy, but can't do anything. Juliana, meanwhile, unexpectedly calls Shane to the bar and flirts with him. In the middle of their meeting, Holly shows up at the bar. The girl sees what's going on, gets angry, and runs away. The couple argues. Holly is sure that Shane's ex is just using him. He, in turn, asks her to understand him too. He can't date a girl who doesn't exist. These words hurt Holly. She says that she hasn't found any dirt on Attila, so Shane will have to handle the rest on his own.
You've been fixing these fights.
They have a huge quarrel. Holly locks herself at home and sees on TV that Shane has renewed his affair with Juliana. She's devastated and quits her job. One day, however, Shane does come to visit her. He tells her that the picture Holly took was not at fault for his and Juliana's breakup, and that his first fight with Attila was his own fault entirely. The girl realizes that the reason why the curse hasn't been broken yet lies in something else. Then, Shane offers her a different perspective on what happened to Holly after her mother died. Maybe her family didn't abandon her at all. Maybe something else happened. The girl can't believe the audacity. Not only did the most important person in her life pass away, after which nobody cared about her, but now Shane insinuates that it's her fault.
Just go.
Holly is left alone again. She's constantly thinking about her family and seems to be slowly beginning to remember things. One day, she goes to Vanessa's house and sees her taking a pregnancy test for the 3rd time and then hiding it from her husband. Holly kicks the trash can and the test falls out right in front of her son-in-law. The guy rejoices and Vanessa begins to cry. She shares the horror that she had to endure after the death of her mother with her husband, and how she's afraid to have her own children. Suddenly, Holly realizes that she isn't the only one who the family tragedy left a strong imprint on. Later, Holly goes to her brother's house. She watches his movies, which she used to consider strange, and sees beauty in them, as well as shots with her mother. Holly notices that there's a girl in the footage that Troy most often shoots. At that same moment, she passes by the window, and the girl decides to help her brother get to know her by tripping the stranger.
Are you okay, miss?
Then the girl goes to her father. She sees a whole collection of sleeping pills in his bedroom and understands that he works at the computer all day long, not out of a great love for his job, but to drown out the anxiety. The girl also notices that he still keeps his mother's paintings and visits her grave with flowers every anniversary. Holly realizes that it was hard for all members of her family to go through the loss. She expected support from others so much that she completely forgot how to support others herself. As fast as she can, the girl hurries to the venue where Shane will have his fight with Mate. She skips the beginning of the fight, listening to it on the radio. This way, she learns that her lover spends the first 2 rounds on the defensive, and the third one ends with an injury. Finally, she arrives at the site. Shane's situation is getting worse by the second. He's on the verge of defeat, and as soon as he gets to his feet, he immediately receives a series of blows to the chest and chin and then falls again. After another exhausting round, Holly runs out into the ring and tells Shane words of encouragement. He is a champion and deserves to be there. The invisible girl knows that he can no longer see or hear her, but takes the fighter by the hand nonetheless. Suddenly, Shane opens his eyes and looks straight at her.
Where does she come from?
Holly runs out of the ring and Shane returns to the fight with renewed vigor. He inflicts a series of lightning strikes on his opponent and exhausts him with grappling on the ground. Holly, meanwhile, is pulled away from the ring and realizes that she's no longer invisible. A few seconds later, the referee stops the fight after Shane's winning submission, and the judges announce their scores based on the results of 5 rounds. The fighters go head-to-head, but Mate still wins. Devastated by the loss, Shane walks out of the ring. Juliana tells him that he fought well, and immediately runs off to shower Mate with compliments. Shane takes off in search of Holly, and literally snatches her out of the guard's hands. He realizes that Holly has become real, and confesses that he broke up with Juliana. This way, Holly's curse is lifted forever. She's now found love. However, this is only half the battle. She still has to learn to feel the pain of others and grow up. But the first step has already been taken. At the end of the story, the girl comes to her father and embraces him in tears. What do you think will happen next? Did Holly's relatives also think she had abandoned them? And if so, can they forgive her? Share your theories in the comments. Like this video and subscribe to the channel if you also appreciate awesome movies.